Is Cooper Kupp going to fall this evening? Who's going to force the issue at tight end in this draft? And is the $1 million winner going to come out of tonight's proceedings? Follow along with the live draft board and watch our pick-by-pick analysis as we call the action from the 2023 Fantasy Pros Championship to see who stands the best shot at winning the $1 million grand prize. We've got a great show for you. Jay Reid is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Pressure, I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all the Balkaholics. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your host and slightly above average one at that, Eric Balkman. My co-host is a guy you actually already follow on Twitter at Packers153, the co-host of the Chasing the Helmet podcast, guy who's been a guest on this show before. Please welcome in Mr. Jay Reid. Jay, welcome in tonight, man.
Hey, Balky, how are you doing tonight?
Doing excellent, doing excellent. Excited to hang out with you for the next 90-plus minutes here. You've already made your first-round pick. We're going to get to it in a second as we are off and running tonight. I want to shout out to the chat room both on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter that are watching this. You can follow the show on Twitter at HSFF or at Eric Balkman is where I'm at. As I already said, Jay is on Twitter at Packers153. Check out the KFFSC.com as well. Facebook.com/HSFF Hour is where you can connect with us there. HighStakesFantasyFootball@gmail.com is the inbox. If you have any questions for us, we'll monitor those throughout the evening and try to bring them up on air as best we can. Thanks to the hard work of our producer and mutual friend Rob and our audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, the FFPC main event live drafts are off and running as of today, everybody. So make sure if you want to win $1 million, you are drafting in the FFPC main event, a $1 million grand prize for the second straight year, and the Fantasy Pros Championship, the draft we're covering tonight. You can register for that at MyFFPC.com as well. For the first time ever, a $1 million grand prize. No, I didn't misspeak. Two separate $1 million grand prizes in the FFPC this year. Let's get to tonight's participants in the draft. We got Scott McKetchin drafting from the 1 spot tonight. Jay Reid drafting from the 2. He is going to be our co-host for the night to give you insight from his angle, from his perspective on this, which is going to be great. Sean Stevenson's fly is drafting 3rd. Eric Hebden's headers, head spinners is hitting cleanup tonight in the 4 spot. Another former guest of the show, Big Bird, Andrew Peacock drafting 5th. In the 6th spot, again, another former guest of the show, My Cat's a Drunk. No, that's the team name, not the person drafting. Beth Riches, that's her team name at the 6th spot tonight. Frank Imbornoni in the 7th spot, followed by Jake Belich's Johnny Seasons. Boy, I butchered that. Johnny Seasons, he's also a 26er. He wants us to know that from the FFPC Dynasty 250 number 26 league. He's one of them. He's drafting 8th. A guy who's a longtime FFPC and KFFSC player. Bobby Sangerman, Stats, is going to be drafting 9th tonight, followed by Andrew Brown, who we will hear from tonight on the broadcast. He's the Golden Tanks in the 10 spot tonight. Jared Krushik, Aaron Cart is drafting 11th, and then Alexander Lazurko, his Kozak system, is drafting 12th tonight. We are already 5 picks in. A little bit of a surprise here, Jay. We'll talk about that right at the spot here. Travis Kelce at the 101. I know you have drafted a ton, but this is actually your first Fantasy Pros draft of the season. How surprised were you to see Kelce go at the 101?
I had Kelce queued up, ready to go as my first pick, and already unpredictable. He was sniped from me. Yeah, a snipe, and I have the 2nd pick, and I'm already sniped.
Yeah,
in the draft.
It's an inauspicious beginning, Jay. You knew coming in you were going to get either Kelce or Jefferson. You got to be thrilled with either one.
Yeah, but I was hoping for the later round, later slots, because there you can get 2 stud wide receivers, 2 stud running backs, a stud wide receiver, a stud running back. By the time it comes back, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd spots, especially. So how do you combat that? You take an elite tight end, which he did. Kudos to him. Or you take an elite quarterback. So we'll see how it shakes out. but I prefer maybe round 6 right now, round 6 on, than the first 5 rounds. Now that may change as we get closer to Vegas, though.
Right. It usually does, right? Because we're always rolling with the punches, right? We got to roll with the NFL information. We got to roll with the ADP. We got to roll with what everybody else is doing to try to formulate the best squads possible. Dominic Guzzetti is in the YouTube right now commenting on my beard. I appreciate that. And he's got good taste in beer, drinking an Elysian Space Dust out of Seattle. Nice choice on the IPA tonight. But he says, clear and present, dangerously obvious is Kelce at the 101. We have not, we've seen Kelce at the 101, not just this year, Jay, but you've seen it in years past too. Yes. And I think every time we see the 101 as Kelce in an FFPC tight end premium draft, it always gets my juices flowing, because I'm like, all right, this is going to be a fun draft tonight. Tight end 101. Here we go.
Yeah. Again, that was my pick. It didn't happen. So let's see what they leave me when it comes around. But I'm going to be drafting a little bit different tonight than I normally do. I have some strategies I stick to that have been proven. But this is my first draft in the FFPC this year. Mm-hmm. The last draft I had was in Kentucky, the KFSSC on Super Bowl Sunday.
Right.
So in August, that's where we kick it up and we get started and we start drafting. So it's good to hop on live with you tonight on my first one. So have patience with me.
Oh, well, we'll give you all the patience in the world, my friend. Justin Jefferson was obviously your choice at the 102. Actually, that started a trio of receivers here. Tyreek Hill at the 103 to Sean Stevenson. Jamar Chase off the board to the head spinners. That's Eric Hebden's choice at the 104. Christian McCaffrey at the 105 tonight to Andrew Peacock. We're seeing Cooper Kupp go at the 106 to Beth Riches, followed by Bijan Robinson to Frank Imbornoni. Then you're looking at Stephon Diggs to Jake Belich here at the 108. Austin Eckler at the 109 tonight as Bobby Sangerman starts off his draft with a running back. Got a pair of receivers after that. Andrew Brown ends up going with a CeeDee Lamb to his Golden Tank squad. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the next choice at the 111. Aaron Cart, that is Jared Kruschik. And by the way, guys, I apologize if I'm butchering any of the names tonight. It's sort of what I do. If you've seen the HSFF hour before, all I do is mispronounce names. It's not going to be the first time. It wasn't the first time. It's not going to be the last time. A.J. Brown, the final pick of the first round here tonight to Alexander Lazurko's Kozak system. I've been seeing A.J. Brown at the 112 a lot tonight. Jay, the next thing I think we should talk about here is what happened at the 103. Sean Stevenson ended up taking Tyreek Hill over Jamar Chase, over Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if I've seen Tyreek Hill go that high. I look at the Fantasy Mojo on this one, and FantasyMojo.com, Darren Armani, the godfather of the pros versus Joes, at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter. Anytime we cite ADP or stacks or anything like percentages, those are all stats from FantasyMojo.com. And if you do play in the FFPC, highly recommend you check out his website. It's probably going to make you a better FFPC player. Over the last 3 days in the Fantasy Pros Championship, the highest Tyreek Hill has gone has been 104. He goes at the 103 tonight. Somebody planting their flag on Tyreek Hill this year, my friend, at the 103, and his name is Sean Stevenson.
Well, I expected that, and you're going to see a lot of that tonight because there's only 4 badged or experienced players in this draft, 8 or not. So sometimes you say, well, hey, that's good. There's only, 3 other experienced players. Not so much, because those other 8, they're going to go for their players. They're going to reach. They're not going to follow ADP. They're not going to follow the at least the ADP that high stakes players use. So look at Waddle. Waddle already on the turn.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so you're going to see a lot of that tonight. So you can't go by Mojo's ADP tonight on the play for this Fantasy Pros draft, because they're going to have players fall, move up, and sideways, every which way. So you just have to take the best value in a draft like this, and just take the best player that falls to you.
What's interesting is when you consider the point you just brought up about more of the casual players coming in this time of year, not going by ADP. Jay, sometimes we have really skilled players that have already been drafting for a couple of months, and Turp and I talked about this on the broadcast last night. Sometimes they're looking to switch up their portfolios, and they'll go off ADP a couple of times too. So it's kind of a mad science going on in this draft tonight. You don't know what any of these people are capable of, whether they're more casual or newer players, the 2023 FFPC, or if they're experienced ones. Now, I will say that by and large, if you've been successful, you're usually kind of following ADP a little bit here in the draft. And we've seen, players go off, off ADP before and get their guys here. But you're right. I mean, with the more inexperienced players, at least for this season, we do see them coming in and doing their own thing, which I appreciate. Cooper Kupp at the 106. It was an auto pick to Beth Riches. Is this a player that you would be looking at taking in the mid-6 when you consider? And I'll let you make your pick right here, Jay. We'll get back to the Cooper Kupp conversation in a second. But it's on the 211 right now. Jay has already drafted Justin Jefferson. You're looking at Patrick Mahomes was the first quarterback off the board. We've got 2 tight ends off the board in Kelsey and Andrews. 12 receivers been taken. 7 running backs have been taken as well. It's early yet, Jay. You could go a lot of different ways here. You could take another receiver. You could go tight end. I don't know if you'd go quarterback here. I don't think you would, but running back certainly a possibility. A lot of different ways to go. Can you tell the viewers here sort of what you're looking at here at the 211 tonight, man?
Well, this was my thinking. I was hoping for Mahomes not to be picked and fall to the first guy. Give me that decision. I do like Jalen Hurts here. That now that Mahomes was picked, I could pick Devontae Smith and go with him. But coming around, there's no guarantee I'll get Hurts. So that's where I'm going to go.
Interesting. Okay. And why was it important for you to get an elite quarterback here this early?
Well, with Hurts, I feel I get an elite passer and an elite rusher at the same time. I'm trying to keep pace with the back half of the draft. And look, he went Josh Allen.
Right.
So undoubtedly, he would have went Hurts. So then falling back to me, I probably would have waited on quarterback at that point. Because Josh Allen is off week 13.
Right.
I mean, it's nice to have him. Usually you see that Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs stack. And that's good if you have a lot of leagues, to pick some of those stacks. But both of those guys will be in the bench, especially in this format. You need to win week 13 to get to the championship game to win any type of award or money.
You are on the clock. Yeah, and great point there. Obviously, when you talk about the Week 13 bye too, you're on the clock again here. Jefferson and then Jalen Hurts. So as you pointed out, Scott McEachin here at the turn at the 1 spot started off with Kelsey. Now he takes Josh Allen and Joe Mixon at the 301. Joe Mixon coming off the board as running back 8. Just looking at the mojo on that does seem early for Mixon. Yeah, he's normally running back 13 at the end of the 3rd round. So McEachin getting Mixon there, getting his guy here at the 301. Jay Reid's about to get his guy at the 302. Jay, who's it?
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go. He left me the stack,
and you get Hurts and Devontae Smith. Let me ask you this, because we have seen, and I'd have to check the mojo on this, but I know it's pretty close. 2 receivers both going in the 2nd round. I don't know if I've seen that. I've seen 1st and 2nd before. I've seen 1st and 3rd before. 2nd and 2nd is kind of weird, but I think the ADP with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are both settling at the beginning of the 2nd round and at the end of the 2nd round. And to me, that's like, my goodness, if you can't get it's going to be impossible to get the Brown Hurts Smith stack. But Hurts and Smith is becoming more and more popular here. Got to be pretty thrilled with those back-to-back picks here, Jay.
Yeah, I had to change up my strategy because I was looking at Travis Kelce and possibly a Mahomes, but I was going to leave that decision up to the guy in the 1st spot if both Mahomes and Hurts went to him, and I would have picked Devontae Smith there. And now that he'd have probably took Mahomes with the stack, and he would have gave me what I wanted anyway.
Right.
So I was in a win-win situation there. But coming back in the 4th and 5th round, I definitely do not like the players that fall there. I wish I was in the back half of this draft, because that's where I might start reaching a little
start
bit.
Reaching early. That'll be fun. That'll be fun stream if you do that. Jay is referring to the other end of the draft, obviously, and the other end of the draft actually started off the 2nd round. We already talked about Jalen Waddle coming off the board a little earlier tonight at the 201 to Alexander Lazurko. Nick Chubb after that to Jared Kruschek, Garrett Wilson to Andrew Brown, Tony Pollard to Robert Sangerman, Saquon Barkley off the board to Jake Belich, Devontae Adams, the first receiver drafted by Frank Imbornoni, Derrick Henry to Beth Riches, followed by Mark Andrews to Big Bird, that's Andrew Peacock, Chris Olave to the head spinners, that's Eric Hebden, and then the 3 quarterbacks there, Mahomes, Hurts, and Josh Allen. That is the end of the 3rd round here. And what was I talking about? I want to skip the Cooper Kupp discussion here. Saquon Barkley slipped it a little bit tonight. It's kind of a weird situation there, Jay, because He signed the 1-year deal. It seems like he's all in. What do you think is going to happen with him when he gets that first nagging tissue injury? Do you think he's going to tough his way through it, knowing that he's on a 1-year contract? Or do you think that maybe I'm going to take the Lamar Jackson route and take some games off? Because that's the conundrum facing fantasy owners this year with Saquon Barkley in the first or second round.
Yeah, I think there was some type, I don't remember exactly, some type of podcast weeks ago that they were discussing that and talking about that. Will these players really try near the end of the season if their teams are not competing or not in the playoffs? They just need 6 games in to get their money to fulfill the contract. So that's a tough one on Saquon. He usually comes up limber a little bit during the season. I don't think he's going to make all the whole season, but when you taking a running back in the second round, you want at least the hope that he's healthy, a healthy back, and that he's going to make the whole season. But Saquon definitely has some questions.
I have some questions for Team 1. Number 1, I'd have to look at the Fantasy Mojo Stack Finder, but is that the first Kelsey, Josh Allen, Joe Mixon start we've seen this year? I think it might be.
It might be.
FantasyPros, because it's pretty unique. Mixon goes really high tonight. It really caught me off guard. I was not expecting Joe Mixon to see his name in the early first round here tonight, Jay.
Well, I said that earlier. It's just I've thrown out strategy. I've thrown out ADP at this point. Okay, it's not, when I saw that there was only 4 badges and 8. I've been in drafts before. Even though this is my first one of the year, I knew this was going to happen. So I'm just going to sit back and see what falls to me, and always keep an eye on the first spot, because going in, I always check and see what they need and take that, because I know I won't get that coming back out. So that's one good thing about being on the ends, the 11 and the 12 and the 1 and the 2 spots.
When you talk about, Jay, to interrupt you, I'm sorry. When you talk about drafting in a league like this where there are only a handful of badges in this draft, do you find it harder or easier to be on the end, which is sort of where you are right now at the 2 spot?
I think it's a little bit easier because you can plan a little bit of a better strategy, because you have 2 picks rather quickly. So you can go get your guys, in between all of the picks, this mass, you don't know what's going to happen. So I would say I'm in a pretty good spot, but I just don't like the players that fall to the first, second, and third spot, even through rounds 10 and 11. So we're going to see. I think I'm going to reach a little bit on some players.
That's what I want to see, because that's going to liven this thing up for sure. Let's liven it up with our first guest in the night, ladies and gentlemen. He's drafting from the 10 spot. His name is Andrew Brown. He's drafting the Golden Tanks team. A lot of yellow on that end of the board with all those receivers. We're going to get his thoughts on it right now. Please welcome onto the HSFF Hour, Mr. Andrew Brown. Andrew, how's it going, dude?
That's great. Thanks for having me on, Balky.
Absolutely. Glad to have you.
Fun start so far.
I was just going to ask you, what do you make of your start? You get the 3 receivers and then Breece Hall here in the 4th. How do you like it?
Yeah, it feels good. When you're at the back end, it feels a little better to be in the middle. I had 3 names written down for the first: CeeDee Lamb, Bijan, and Garrett Wilson. So to come out with 2 out of the 3, not too bad.
That's
and
good.
Then it's coming out of the 3rd, right? Just kind of seeing what's falling to you. JT was an interesting faller. Couldn't make it past the auto pick though. Right. Maybe that would have been a good option for me in the 3rd. But yeah, so far I think I got plenty of options as we move into the 5th and 6th.
So I want to get to strategy in a second here, Andrew, but I do want to ask you, when you look at that first pick in CeeDee Lamb, I often, this is something that I'm battling with in my head right now. Kellen Moore, it seemed like the Cowboys were pretty willing to move on from him. And Mike McCarthy talked about how much Kellen Moore wanted to pass as the OC for Dallas this past year. And then they hired Brian Schottenheimer, who loves to run the ball. And I'm kind of wondering, with the addition of Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, a full year off the ACL, and you have all these talented pass catchers there. Is there going to be enough volume for CeeDee Lamb? Clearly you think so. And maybe I'm overrating the Brian Schottenheimer angle, given your first-round pick here, right?
Well, to be honest, I almost took Garrett. I actually like Garrett Wilson slightly better. But going with ADP, hoping Garrett would follow me in the 2nd, I went CD first because I don't think he would have made it around the turn. I think it's a lot of conjecture right now through the summer. It's easy to talk about how you're going to change things around. A couple weeks in, McCarthy, it's going to feel hot. It's always hot in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb's by far the best player they have. they'll fall back to what worked last year. CD will exert himself clearly. Otherwise, well, this team won't make it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Just looking at ADP, I mean, you're getting some good deals tonight. And maybe the biggest deal that you got in this draft so far was in the third round, a full half round of value, getting T. Higgins there at the 310. I can't imagine that was part of your plans, but when Higgins was on the board and Najee Harris goes to Sangerman the pick before, you're like, my God, I got to grab Higgins here, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, going back to my board, Higgins was not on that as an option in the third. Looking at ADP, I had Brees, had Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, was looking at those three. And seeing how the running backs were going, took a chance Brees would fall in the fourth. I mean, he's got questions, right? Just like Josh Jacobs of the 404. If those questions weren't there for both those players, arguably they're middle second talents at least. And so, you take the high upside picks here, I think, in the fourth, and then, smooth it out later. It also helps to have Garrett. So I'm heavily into the Jets. Didn't work last year with Zach Wilson. Hopefully this year, Aaron Rodgers can make some fantasy people feel good about being into the Jets.
Let's talk about that Brees Hall pick, because I've seen him slip over the last, week or two, basically ever since these Dalvin Cook rumors got fired up. Dominic Gazzetti is talking about that the medicals are saying that his pre-injury form won't happen until week 6. And I think the question here, Andrew, is not necessarily that. The question here is if you were in a closed 12-team league where you just got to beat these other 11 players rather than beating thousands of players for $1 million in the Fantasy Pros Championship, do you still think you would have went Brees Hall there? Because to me, he seems like a guy who might have a lower floor than we might imagine, but sky's the limit, highest ceiling out there, right?
Yeah, maybe it's my dynasty brain talking to me too much, but I'm way high on Brees. And this redraft, but I would have taken him again earlier in the fourth, but I'll take my chances, let it fall to me with ADP. I think if Dalvin was going to sign, he'd have done it by now. I think there's maybe a lot more smoke there. It really seems like, and I have absolutely not an insider, he wants to go somewhere else. It wouldn't be this long. I mean, if Dalvin would have signed already, then I think Brees probably could fall a little further. But I like Dalvin potentially going someplace else. And
where do you think? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's say Dalvin Cook does sign a week or so before the start of the season, and it is with the New York Jets. And obviously with Main Event and Fantasy Pros Championship draft still going on all the way up to the start of the season, how late do you think Brees Hall would fall? How late would you wait on Brees Hall, knowing that Dalvin Cook's in the same backfield for him? Would you start looking at him in the late fourth, in the fifth, maybe the sixth? How far would he tumble on your rankings?
Yeah, I think I couldn't let him go past the 406. I took him at the 403 here, maybe just a little bit further. It may increase your likelihood, if you can, to target Dalvin later to mitigate some of that, and then weather that first month. Because if you want to get into the fantasy playoffs, that's when you want Brees, when all this money's up for grabs. And then, you have a little more risk early in the first month, but you're in a much better position at the back end to compete.
We're talking with Andrew Brown. He's drafting 10th tonight, the Golden Tank squad, with Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Higgins, and Hall so far. Coming up on your pick in a few minutes. And I have to ask you here, Andrew, it's kind of an interesting board at your end of it right now, with you already having 3 receivers. You're looking at Team 11, Jared Krushik has 3 receivers, and then Team 12, Alexander Lazurko has taken nothing but receivers so far. How much of a chess game is this going to turn into now, knowing that, these guys are probably going to be after running backs, tight ends, and maybe a quarterback here? Is that going to influence how you're picking in the odd number rounds going into, before those guys have a chance to pick before you?
Yeah, certainly. I think as this gets deeper, that's going to play a bigger role. Right now, I had a whole handful of my queue and this went down to 1. So this pick may get much easier. I was about to tell you this. I may have a hard choice here between 5 guys in my queue. There's one, and we'll see. Fingers crossed he makes it.
Yeah, so Andrew's on deck right now. We've seen a couple of, actually basically in the last 2 rounds, we've seen 4 tight ends go off the board. That makes 7 tight ends selected so far. 6 quarterbacks off the board here. Andrew does not have either the position. He already has 3 receivers. 26 receivers have been drafted so far. 3 of them are on Andrew Brown's team. And then 17 total running backs drafted through 5.5 rounds. He does have one of them in Brees Hall on his team. The pick before you now is Christian Kirk. Andrew, you are on the clock here at the 5:10. Can you tell us, did that one player make his way through your queue?
He did. And I don't want to have second thoughts. Hey, we've seen, Jay went early with Hurts, Mahomes, Allen, late second. You couldn't even imagine that last year. But it proved to be in a lot of winning teams. And right here, it's clearly, at the end of a tier with the quarterbacks. And so, again, I've already kind of said I'm risk on for this team. And so come on down, Justin Fields.
Baby.
And see what he can do to round this team out. And again, I still think it leaves me a lot of good options throughout the next few rounds. I got a premium quarterback now. Maybe I'm leaning towards Hero RB, but we'll see what happens here at the turn.
Yeah, Justin Fields on average goes at the 508. To Andrew's point, the next quarterback usually does not come off the board on average until the end of the 6th round. So this is the end of a tier. You grab one here, and I actually like this pick quite a bit. Fields was my first pick in the Scott Fish Bowl that we did earlier last month, and that's obviously super flex too. But I the thing with Fields is yeah, I think we think on the surface he's a go for broke league winning type player, but if the reports are true that this guy is actually throwing the ball a lot better, looking more confident in the offense, he didn't forget how to run with the football. So that's still going to be there. You're still going to have his legs, and obviously the ceiling a little bit higher for the passing game, not to mention the addition of DJ Moore. You got Cole Kmet locked up here too. Darnell Mooney is going to be healthy. Chase Claypool for a full season. So he's going to have the players to throw to. Trevor Lawrence actually coming off the board at the 5'11" tonight, right after you, Andrew. So maybe you're creating something here. Maybe the quarterbacks are going to get pushed up a little bit more so than what we've seen in previous nights. So now you have Lamb, Wilson, Higgins, Hall, and Fields, and I wonder, and we'll look at what Alexander Lazurko does here. We've seen Bobby Sangerman at the 9 spot tonight draft 4 running backs with his first 5 picks, and in the FFPC, the starting lineup: quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, kicker, defense, and 2 flexes. So Sangerman, if he wants to, he could start those 4 running backs every single week. Lazurko could start those 4 receivers every single week in this format if he wanted to. So it's not like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul here. These guys are all in a perfect world and looking for the most elite solution, elite result that you can. Ostensibly, those guys would be in your lineup. Now, he does go with the running back here in Dameon Pierce, and I think he's become kind of a polarizing player. The other thing I should mention here, too, what Jake Belich did at the 8 spot here, Andrew. Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, is that going to factor in your decision in how early you're going to get a tight end? Because if you don't draft one here coming in the 6th round, it's a long wait, and I think tight end's deep enough, and you can obviously get away with it. But is the Belich, what he did at the 8 spot tonight, is that affecting at all your thought process here and what you're going to do in the 6th round?
Yeah, it is, because again, Pitts and Herbert and Walker were all in the queue, right? When I said I had 5, bam, 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 5, 6, 5, 7, 5, 5, 5, 6, 5, 7, and they all went. So, I mean, for me, I don't think the tight end value is good here. And so I'm still looking at just piling into maybe another running back or wide receiver. So.
And now you're on the clock after Para Williams go off the board here in the 6th round. Javonte and Mike to start off the 6th round. Andrew, you are on the clock here. 3 receivers to your name, a running back and a quarterback to your name. You already kind of alluded to maybe the tight end value not there. So you go with a running back or receiver here. A lot of options.
Yeah, Balky, this is my hardest pick of the night. I mean,
oh boy.
Seemed like the first 5, I already knew what I wanted. It happened. It was there. I took it. Here, I got 4 in the queue, 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers. So really, really split. And I'm just going to go with the running back here. Not a beloved name, but a guy that really finished strong last year, did the same thing the year before. So hopefully I don't have 2 running backs that only do well week 11 to the end, because then I'll have a hard time making it anywhere towards the back half of the season. But I think I like the chances of a decent wide receiver coming in the 7th and 8th, coming back around. So we'll go one more running back here to round out the team.
Cam Akers, beloved in my Florida State Seminole heart, for sure. I like the pick there at the 603. Good for you, Andrew. Now you have your 2 running backs, 3 receivers. Lot to work with. Tight ends pretty deep. We'll see what you do in the 7th round. I want to thank you for not only making 1 pick on the air tonight, but 2 picks and giving us your insight into your draft tonight. We appreciate it, dude. Good luck in winning that $1 million this year, man.
Thanks, Bobby. Good luck, Jay.
Thanks.
Thank you. The Golden Tanks, owned by Andrew Brown, stopping by here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour as we head back to Jay Reid, who is drafting in the second spot tonight. Jay, tell us about your last couple of picks here. DeAndre Hopkins at the 411, a player that is going to fit in pretty nicely as your wide receiver 3. A lot of targets in Tennessee. Got to be pretty happy to get him as the 22nd receiver off the board here. Penultimate pick of the 4th round.
Yeah, actually, I was hoping Christian Watson would fall to me. Didn't happen. Sniped again right before me. Being a Packer fan, I'd have liked to have added him. But Hopkins seemed to be the pick there. Again, none of the receivers there are really like that much. I mean, McLaurin is a good pick, but he's off week 14.
Right,
So,
yeah.
The receiver sitting on the bench. And Deontay Johnson, no, not for me. Drake London. A lot of mouths to feed there, so that's why I went with Hopkins, and then I couldn't pass up the triple stack,
the super stack for Jay Reid. I love it. And the Eagles fly. Where's Dave Terpoli? He'd love to start. Hurts, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert in the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th round. Were you? I mean, okay, so if Watson would have made it to you at the let's say he was available at the 411, you take Watson there. Would you still grab Goddard at the 502 if Hopkins was still out there?
That would have been tough, but probably I would have went with Goddard since I had Jalen Hurts.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I still would have done the triple stack.
Triple stack here for Jay Reid, who is now on the clock.
Just got sniped again. Tyler Lockett was on my radar. That was a good pick. And I like teams 10, 11, and 12 so far. And I knew that. I mean, they're just scooping it up there. I'm on the clock.
You are on the clock, and I'll give everybody a recap here. So the 10, actually, and we got some love. Hudson Kern Reeve, actually, also in addition to Jay, showing some love for teams 10 and 11 and 12. Kern, our resident Ivy League professor, actually likes 9 as well. So 9, 10, 11, and 12, all looking pretty good to Hudson Reeve and Jay Reid here. Jay is up on the clock right now. He's got his quarterback. He's got his tight end. 3 receivers, no running backs yet on Jay's roster. 23 of them so far have been chosen. Looking at 32 receivers off the board already. I would imagine that this pick, Jay, is probably going to either be a running back or receiver.
It's going to be a running back. I didn't think he would fall to me, but he did. Which is rare tonight, so I'm going to go with Rachaad White.
Yeah, Rachaad White is the 24th running back off the board. I mean, Jay, are you a little surprised he's not going higher in these drafts, given that most of the pub that we've heard from him this offseason and his coaches, he's going to be a 3-down guy, he's going to catch a lot of passes. Why are FFPC drafters sleeping on this guy in the 6th round?
I don't know. I think Brady's gone. I think the offense, Baker Mayfield's a question mark there. They don't know who's going to be the quarterback, but I think White's going to get a lot of passes out of the backfield. They're going to be coming from behind probably most every game. So they'll be checking down to him a lot. Just for, the PPR points there. I think this is a good fit for the team I've built so far.
And I think anytime you go 0 RB, which is what you did tonight with the 3 receivers, the quarterback, and the tight end, to get a guy like Rachaad White as your first running back that you can get at the 6'11" tonight, kudos to you, my friend. That is a good selection there. As White is going to be starting for you, ostensibly starting for you as the season goes on as your number 1 running back. I like it. I like the start that you have here so far. You're back on the clock after a duo of running backs were just selected by Scott McKetchin. Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara go off the board. Now you're back on the clock at the 7:02, Jay.
Well, I knew Kamara would rise a round or two with the news that he only got a 3-week suspension. Everybody was expecting 6. I thought he'd maybe go a little bit higher, and mostly, in the Cam Akers, Miles Sanders, and Kenneth Walker area. But this is tough. There's a wide receiver I like and a running back I like that will not come back to me with the build I have. I think I'm going to continue with the PPR points out of the backfield here and try to rake them up. And I'll always look at the quarterback who's throwing to these running backs in these games. And I don't think there's any better quarterback than the guy throwing to this guy right here.
Yeah, and this is another guy, Jay. We were talking about this on the live stream last night with Terp. We both said, like, we're of the opinion that James Cook is going to be a riser. And the fact that you can still get Cook in the late 6th, or like you got him tonight in the early 7th, I'm all over that. Tuesday at practice, and I know I keep citing the stat, and it was one day, but I'm going to keep bringing it up. Josh Allen completed 12 passes that day. 5 of them, count them, 5, were to James Cook on a team that features Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and Dalton Kincaid. And I said Josh Allen's not in the business of checking down. So clearly these were either design plays to Cook, or Cook was just wide open. You know what I mean? So, and he's being weapon out of the backfield. And Rachaad White, James Cook, between those two guys, I mean, you could be looking at potentially 130, maybe even 140 catches this year, and you're investing 6th and 7th round picks in them. I got to tell you, Jay, I know you didn't plan it this way, but man, I'd be thrilled to get White and Cook on this squad.
Yeah, I'm surprised they both fell. I mean, looking at the ADP, they usually get scooped up in the 6th. But to get both in the 6th and 7th on the turn there. And that's what I was saying earlier. It's a little bit easier to plan your strategy in the 1 and 2 and 11 and 12 slots, especially in a league like this where you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, I'm pretty happy so far. Now the drawback on Cook is he's off week 13.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to lose that running back in week 13. So I have to do
But you do, but to your point, or to the point of week 13, you're going to have 12 weeks to cobble together just one running back that could start in James Cook's place. And to me, Jay, and I don't know how you feel about this, to me, the easiest player to replace in my starting lineup every single week is my second running back, because it's such an opportunity-driven position. And then when you're not talking about having to get a top 12 running back in there, you just get a top 24 running back. I think you can cobble that out. So if you got to be weak somewhere, or if you got to have somebody in a week 13 bye, give me the guy in the elite offense at the position that I feel pretty strongly that I can find somebody else in the first 12 weeks to start that week too.
Yeah, I always look at, again, I mentioned that, but I always look at the quarterback that's throwing to these running backs out of the backfield, so, there's no better one than Josh Allen and Cook. They're saying there that he's going to be a 3-down back too.
Yeah.
So if you go with the news, I just drafted, if it's true and it holds true, I just drafted 2 3-down backs.
That's a great point. That's what I'm saying. You got to be thrilled with those 2 picks for sure.
Yeah. And again, I'm surprised. I didn't think both would fall. I thought maybe one would get to me, but that was a pleasant surprise.
A pleasant surprise, not only to get both those running backs, but when Team 1 and Scott McKetchin also took 2 running backs, you'd think, oh God, it's going to be one of these. It's going to be one of these running backs that I want here. And then you got White and Cook. I prefer both those guys over Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara this year for sure.
Well, Balky, I didn't think I was going to get him because he's got Josh Allen.
Right. Yeah, that's another good point too. That's another great point.
For sure. I said, well, Cook's not going to fall to him. He's definitely, if he's going to take 2 running backs, and he needed to. So we have similar bills going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, there might be some sniping later on here.
There could be. There very well could be.
Yeah.
By the way, Matthew McCutcheon is in the YouTube chat right now. Jay, he wants to know if you're wearing a Penn State T-shirt tonight.
That is a Penn State. I'm 40 miles outside of Philadelphia, and my daughter just graduated from Penn State in rehab and rehabilitation. Very proud of her.
Mm-hmm.
She's got 2 degrees, and she got a job. She was like in an apprenticeship program. Where she started working for the state of Pennsylvania, and they hired her. She got out of college.
Oh, congratulations to her. That's fantastic news.
Very, very proud of her. So tuition money, this is what I got.
Well, Jay, listen, I have no doubt she's proud of her father's first 7 rounds in this draft tonight, for sure. Just crushing it. Speaking of the first 7 rounds, I want to take you through the 7th round that just took place. Scott McKetchin took Alvin Kamara. Obviously, Jay took James Cook here. DeAndre Swift off the board as the 5th straight running back drafted in this draft tonight. That was Sean Stevenson's fly squad. DeAndre Swift as his number 2 running back, pairing this year's Lions running back with last year's Lions running back in his backfield with Gibbs and Swift. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the 3rd wide receiver drafted by Eric Hebden tonight at the 4. A couple more running backs here. J.K. Dobbins to Andrew Peacock. David Montgomery off the board to Beth Riches. Marquise Brown and Jordan Addison. A couple of receivers after that to Frank Imbornoni and Jake Belich, respectively. Deshaun Watson as the quarterback 9 tonight, starting quarterback for Bobby Sangerman's squad. Evan Engram off the board after that to Andrew Brown. Isaiah Pacheco and Samaje Perine completing the 7th round tonight. Now, before I start talking about Pacheco, just want to double check. Okay, so that is about his ADP. I feel like he went lower tonight, but that is actually where he's going. 709, he goes up to 711 tonight. He's open all day, maybe in that backfield, being the 711 pick for Kansas City this year. What do you make of Sangerman's squad from Team 9? I know Hudson Kern-Reed already talked about how he liked that build after the first 4 picks. Eckler, Pollard, Harris, Najee Harris, and then Josh Jacobs with are the first 4 selections. They're all running backs, and then he bounces back. He gets Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, and now Deshaun Watson here. Jay, what do you make of Team 9 start?
It's not a build for me with 4 straight running backs like that. But I have to say, he's pulling it out, with Christian Kirk, Ayuk, Watson, and now he's added Pickens. This could be a team to watch. I didn't think he would get those later wide receivers taking those first 4 running backs. So I have to agree with Hudson. It's a good team. I like teams 10, 11, and 12. But again, the back, 9, 10, 11, 12. I said that before we even started drafting.
You did, yeah.
So as a high-stakes player, I try to keep up. If I'm in the first, second, third in the first half, I try to keep up with that back half. And I tell you, it's a challenge this year. Now, things can change, Bulky, by the time we get to Planet Hollywood, in Vegas. Some things can happen where, maybe the second, third, and fourth spots are the best spots. But right now, that's where you want to be if you want a draft slot.
And when's the last time you saw a team start off with 4 receivers and then 4 running backs in a row? Because that's what Alexander Lazurko did. Receiver, 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 back, in Brown, Waddle, Ridley, Samuel, Pierce, Javonte Williams, P. Ryan, and A-Chain. That's kind of an interesting start from the 12.
Well,
and you obviously like that team so far.
Yeah, I think he's just going to paint the board there. Pretty soon you're going to be seeing tight end.
Yes. Oh, now that'd be great. He goes 4 tight ends in a row right after that.
It looks that way. That's the way he's going. I don't think he has a choice. I think he has to do it that way at this point. But he's got good players. I mean, it's we got some different bills here. It'd be interesting to see that. I bet you this draft has teams that are one-offs in this tournament.
Could be. Very well could be.
From what I see. I'm coming up here.
Jay Reid, by the way, you follow Jay on Twitter at Packers153. He is on the clock right now. At the 8:11, we're already more than a third of the way through this draft. It's zooming along here. Jay's already got a trio of receivers in Jefferson, Devontae Smith, and DeAndre Hopkins. He's got his elite quarterback in Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, the super stack to go with Smith and Hurts here. Dallas Goedert, the selection at 502. So no running backs through the first 5 rounds. I really like the selections for Jay Reid here in the 6th and 7th. Rashad White and James Cook. You get back-to-back running backs here that, as we talked about, could be 3-down guys this year. Great value. I'm a fan. Will I be a fan of his 8-11 pick? Jay, that's up to you. What are you thinking here as you are now on the clock?
I have a tight end, a running back, and a receiver. Looking for maybe a player with some breakout games. I'm gonna go with this guy,
Kadarius Toney, wide receiver 41 tonight at the 8:11. And I always say this too, and I think this is a mistake. This is a mistake more in Kentucky than in the FFPC. But I always feel like the teams that go heavy receiver early, like you did tonight with 3 receivers in the first 4 rounds, it's important not to rest on your laurels, to not ignore that position. You get another player here that can step in with Kadarius Toney. And, you talked about it. You got to look at the quarterback throwing on the ball. Can't get much better than Patrick Mahomes right now.
Now, he has some health issues, injury issues. That's, if I can get the half a season out of him, I'll be very happy at that spot. Because wide receivers you can find on the waivers, the guys will drop out, they'll move up, but for right now, with Mahomes slinging the ball, Toney had he finished up really nice at the end of last year. He just needs to stay healthy,
And the great thing about Toney this year is when you consider the competition for targets. I mean, obviously we're concerned about Travis Kelce because he's a beast and he's going to get his there. But look at the other receivers there. I mean, do any of these other guys strike fear in the hearts of you if you have Toney? Like, oh, this guy's going to get a monster number of targets. I don't want to draft Toney because of Rashee Rice, because of Sky Moore, because of Marquez Valdes-Scantling. There's all these guys on that team. Justin Ross is another guy. There's all those guys on that team that, they could be good. but they don't necessarily strike fear in me if that there make good reasons not to draft Kadarius Toney. So Toney I like here at the 8-11. It makes a lot of sense here. You're back on the clock now after Brandon Cooks, the new Cowboy, gets drafted right after the old Cowboy, new Texan, gets drafted, Dalton Schultz, to Scott McKetchin's team at the 1 spot. 4 receivers on your squad, pair of running backs, quarterback and tight end. Now, you said you had a receiver, a running back, and a tight end in the queue for the 8-11 pick. I know you took the receiver in Toney. I don't know if Schultz was the tight end in the queue, but that running back still got to be there. What are you thinking here now, Jay, as you are thinking about your 9th round pick at the 902?
Well, he was in the queue the last time around. I'm surprised he's back, and I might be overdoing it here with Philadelphia. So you kind of know who that's going to be.
This is Dave Terpoli's dream come true draft tonight. And you can make the case, Dynasty Depot, Nelson Verbit, another massive Eagles fan. Darren Armani, a huge Eagles fan as well. Like this is going to get so many views because of what you're doing tonight, Jay. So yeah, Rashad Penny here. And Dave the Dizzle Gerzak was talking about this in the YouTube chat last night when we were streaming. Terp drafted, I think it was it Terp or somebody else? I think it was Terp, getting Rashad Penny a couple of rounds after DeAndre Swift. And DeAndre Swift goes to Sean Stevenson tonight in the 7th. And Dizzle says, Penny, Jay, you got the starter here, because it seems like Penny is going to start over Swift. And I guess the pass catching is probably what separates him. But, it's not to say that Penny can't be a significant player without the perceived pass catches, without the perceived catches that you would think would be going to Swift. I like the Penny pick here in the 9th round. Again, waiting on running back and getting good value here.
Well, I'm 40 miles out of Philly, like I said, so we get the local news every night. So you're right. They're targeting Penny as the starter. I had him in the queue last time, and I went with Toney. So, I got a pleasant surprise and pick him up in the 9th and get some value there. Just a little worried about, too many Eagles, but they're supposed to light it up this year. So I definitely have the players in place, to win it if they do. But I think that's it for tonight as far as the Eagles. I say that, but I think I'm going to stay away. And again, this was not planned, Balky.
It was not planned. You're right.
It was a completely different bill, starting with Travis Kelce and possibly Mahomes. So,
but I mean, I think that's one of the fun things about a draft like this is you kind of got to roll with the punches, and the team you envision in your mind, or at least the start in your mind, very oftentimes is not the start that you get. And you got to be able to roll with the punches, something you're doing very well tonight.
I just saw a comment. Better hope the Philly offense isn't benched the 4th quarter again all next season.
Right. Yeah. And that's Narwhal Sports bringing that up in the YouTube chat. But I'll tell you this: if it happened last year, I mean, Hurts, Brown, Smith, Goddard, they all had really good seasons. So if it comes to be where the Eagles are just going to crush everybody and by the 4th quarter they're not needed, as long as they got those stats in the first 3 quarters, I'm good with that. And the thing is like I just want it, like I don't that's not something that factors into when I'm drafting. I'm looking at, okay, who are the offenses that are going to chew up yardage and score points, and I'll let the chips fall where they may. And if they're benched in the 4th quarter, then they're benched in the 4th quarter. That it is what it is. So I'm good with that. I know you're good with that as well. Big receiver run going on in the 9th round here. What I'm going to do is I want to scroll down here a little bit so everybody can see a little bit better. And then we'll go back to what happened in the 8th round. Let's go to the 8th round here, and I'll give everybody an update. So Luzerko takes Devon Achane as his 4th straight running back here. Then you're looking at Antonio Gibson to Jared Krushik at the 802. His real-life teammate Jahan Dotson goes to Andrew Brown. George Pickens to Bobby Sangerman there at the 804. Brian Robinson, another Washington Commander, selected here in the 8th round as running back 35 to Jake Belich. Michael Pittman, the 3rd receiver drafted by Frank Imbornoni. Pat Freiermuth goes to Beth Richards tonight, followed by Gabe Davis and Quentin Johnson, back-to-back receivers for Peacock and for Hebden. Zach Charbonnet goes off the board right before Jay takes Kadarius Toney, and then Brandon Cooks. We wrap up the 8th round with Brandon Cooks as wide receiver 42 to Scott McKetchin's team. That's his 3rd receiver drafted so far. What did I want to talk? Quentin Johnston. He's a rookie. This is Eric Hebden's squad at the 8th round. He's a rookie, and obviously he's got to compete with targets, not only with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but also Austin Eckler and Gerald Everett. You feel like people are overdrafting the rookie in Los Angeles, or is he worth it, again, because of the high-powered offense he plays on. He's an 8th-round pick right now, Jay. How do you fall in on Quentin Johnston?
Well, the answer to your question is yes. I think he's being overdrafted. And if you've followed me over the years, and I have, my followers, they know how I feel about rookies. I leave that for Scott Connor. We've argued about that. I mean, if you listen to
the yin and the yang of chasing the helmet,
chasing the helmet. Scott had to fight every round to get his rookie with me. But in the first 9 rounds, no, not for me. I mean, he's a great athlete. I like the player, the profile, but not with all the mouths to feed on the Chargers right now.
Let's see. What did I see in the YouTube chat that I wanted to talk about? Hudson Kern Reeve chiming in. Jay, he liked the penny pick for you there. Let's see. Yeah, maybe that was it. Maybe there wasn't anything else that I wanted to talk about here. I guess we can bring this up. This was a question from Professor Reeve. Is it Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Rashee Rice right now? And obviously for you, it was Kadarius Toney over Sky Moore and Rashee Rice. Is it the experience factor? Is it the experience factor? The fact that Toney's been on the field, he's been in the league more than Sky Moore, that you wanted Toney over Sky Moore there?
Look, they're all speedsters, and Mahomes is going to spread the ball around. But I went with Toney, just how he finished up last year. If he's going to be that integral part of the offense, and Mahomes was targeting the way he did, hopefully I look for that to pick up this year in 2023 and to continue that. So that's why I went with Toney.
The 9th round featured a massive wide receiver run in the middle of it. I'll update you. Yeah, the 10th one on another one here. Dalton Schultz at the 901 to Scott McKetchin. Rashad Penny was the pick for Jay Reid here at the 902. David Njoku, the first tight end selected by Sean Stevenson tonight. And here's the receiver run. So it went Zay Flowers to Eric Hebden. It went Sky Moore to Andrew Peacock. Beth Riches took Elijah Moore, followed by Michael Thomas to Frank Imbornoni. Treylon Burks goes off the board to Jake Belich. And then Cortland Sutton ends the run here to Robert Sangerman at the 909 tonight as his 4th receiver drafted, and the 4th receiver he selected in the last 5 rounds here after he started off with 4 straight running backs. Dalton Kincaid is backing up Evan Engram for Andrew Brown this year at the tight end position. A.J. Dillon, the 3rd consecutive running back drafted by Jared Krushik's team here at the 11th spot. And then Tua Tagovailoa wraps up round 9 with his selection. That is Alexander Lazurko, and he pairs Tagovailoa not only with Jalen Waddle, but he also pairs him with Devin Achane. How important, Jay, is stacking? Do you ever utilize drafting a quarterback if you already have like a pass-catching running back on his team? Is that ever a tiebreaker for you to take a certain quarterback, or does that not factor into your thinking on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not caught up too much in stacking. We like to stack maybe in the later rounds, get that 3rd wide receiver stack with your quarterback. But if in the early rounds, if you can get an elite stack like a Josh Allen and a Diggs, Mahomes and Kelsey, you do it,
right?
Okay, because that gives you an edge right off the bat in most drafts. Providing they stay healthy and they perform like they have the past few years. So it's not a main thing, a main thing that I like to do. But when there's opportunity and if there's value with it, yes, I will stack.
The other thing I'll bring up here, and I'm debating whether, I'm not going to bring it up yet. I do want to talk about Jake Belich's team at the 8th spot because there's a YouTube comment about it, and we'll get to that in a little bit here. But we're coming up on Jay's pick. He's actually on deck here in the 10th round. So we're coming up on the halfway point of the draft, and Jay's drafted a pretty balanced team so far. I always used to dislike going with an elite quarterback and elite tight end early on. I always hated that start. And I don't know what happened within the last year or two, maybe the last 3 years. I'm like, you know what? You can make that work. And sometimes it's actually an optimal way to start. And that's what Jay did tonight with Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert here in the 2nd and 5th rounds, respectively. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Smith, DeAndre Hopkins, Kadarius Toney are the big-time pass catchers here. And then you get a few running backs here with a lot of upside with White, Cook, and Penny. So I like the way that this team is going. Are you going to continue on that trajectory, Jay? You're about to be on the clock in about 10 seconds. Can you let the viewers in on a sneak preview of your pick?
It's a surprise pick coming here for me. It's a rookie.
Oh boy, Scott Connor's ears just perked up.
Yeah, he's perked up. I don't know if he's watching or not. He might be proud of me at this pick. But my general rule with him: no rookies until 10th round or after. I know you've heard that before.
And this is the first round that you can do that because it's a 10th round.
That's right. And I like this rookie. I think he's going to be an important piece of the Lions offense. Goff loves going to the tight ends there.
Mm-hmm.
So here he is.
Sam Laporta, the pride of Iowa, is the second tight end drafted by Jay tonight to go with his Dallas Goedert. He gets Sam Laporta as the 16th tight end off the board at the 10-11 tonight. We did see some news today, and not necessarily news, but this is from beat reporter Colton Pouncey, who covers the Lions for The Athletic. He says that Sam Laporta looks like a TE1. Laporta had 35% of the receiving yards for the Hawkeyes as a senior, which is really high for a tight end. He was top 5 in missed tackles forced. He's been working. He's been getting a ton of reps, not only with the first team, but the second team and the third team, which suggests to me that the Lions want to get him seasoned as fast as possible to be a weapon out there. Jay, I think you got a good deal on Laporta here. Not that, because you're co-hosting, it's not like I want to be telling you how great every single pick is, but I really do like a lot of these picks. And I think the great thing about Laporta here, man, is this is a guy that's going to go a couple of rounds higher when we get to Las Vegas and Planet Hollywood, maybe even more than 2 rounds higher if he keeps up with everything he's doing in training camp so far.
Yeah,
Alan Lazard and Elijah Mitchell are off the board here right after you take Laporta. So you're back on the clock now. A quarterback to your name, 2 tight ends to your name, 3 running backs, and 4 receivers. What are you thinking here at the 11:02 as we kick off the second half of this Fantasy Pros Championship draft?
I need some running back depth. So I'm looking at running backs, but I'm looking at running backs maybe one injury away from having an important piece. Could be an RB1 with an injury, and may even get, some reps as well.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been eating up pretty good. I'm gonna go with this guy.
Jaylen Warren, another. Okay, I don't know what your schedule is for Kentucky yet, Jay, but I hope we are not in a lot of drafts together, because these are a lot of players that I really like where you're getting. We talked about Jaylen Warren last night with Terp, and I feel like the disparity between Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris is getting closer and closer as far as not only ADP, but the actual volume and the high value touches that they are both getting in Pittsburgh this year. So Warren, while on the surface, on that M&M candy shell surface, he just looks like a injury away type guy. But you bite into that M&M, you look inside, there's the sweetness of a player that might have some standalone value there too.
Yeah, I think they're going to spell Najee. He's the back there. There's no doubt. But one injury away, I think it's my RB4. So he's not only a compliment to Harris, but he could be standalone if things happen for me there. These are running backs that I draft late that I keep. I don't throw them back in waivers and try to get the, the best, the biggest one game pan in the flash. I keep them, just stashing them and wait for that possible moment, because you see that every year, Balky. So many running backs by week 11, 12, they're getting hurt. They're going down. It's killing your championship chances, your playoff chances.
I'm sort of fine with dropping running backs back into the free agency pool, but running backs I draft at the very end of the draft, right?
Yeah.
Especially when we're drafting like a month before the season starts. Like, I want to take chances on these guys that I know have the talent. I mean, they're in NFL training camp. They obviously have the talent. They just need the opportunity. And those are the guys, like, when you get 2 preseason waiver wires in the Fantasy Pros Championship. So if these guys, if it doesn't work out for them, or if it looks like they're going to get cut or something like that, well, then you can cut them and move on and get the next sexy waiver pickup or whatever then. These guys in the middle rounds, yeah, you kind of got – I don't want to call them roster cloggers, because I do think that a lot of these guys taken in these mid rounds are going to have these 2 to 3 week windows, maybe even multiple 2 to 3 week windows where you can comfortably start them as a top 20 option, and they're going to get you double-digit plus fantasy points. Like, that's where the value is in these guys. You got to be patient on them, Jay. But as you just said, if you're patient on them, you're going to be rewarded. Yeah,
especially in the RB2 slot. I mean, because let's face it, that's probably your least worry in a roster, the RB2. You're not going to win it with your RB2. So, you're looking for fillers. You're looking for that 8 to 11 points a week to get you. So, I mean, that's why we, the running backs, I went kind of 0 RB in this draft, and unless, Derrick Henry falls to you, or if I'd have started off with Christian McCaffrey. But other than that, I just like a lot of the running backs later from the 5th round on this year. I mean, as of right now, that could change. Right. Yes. Yeah. Everything. It's all fungible. It's all. This is why we do a zillion of these live streams, right? Because we want to see what happens when everything changes, how people handle it. Now, there was a question in here, and I think it was Dominic Gazzetti said, this was much earlier. He said, I know we're not there yet, but is Kendre Miller's draft ADP hurting badly with the Alvin Kamara news? Well, we can talk about him now because Kendre Miller just went off the board to the Golden Tank squad run by Andrew Brown. Now, Kendre Miller's ADP over the last 3 days, that's the best I can do on this because the suspension news for Alvin Kamara just came down earlier this afternoon, probably 7 or so hours ago. Kendre Miller, right now, if you look at his ADP, running back 47 at the 1201. Tonight, he goes at the 1110, so almost on brand with where his ADP is, Jay. I don't know how you view the New Orleans situation. I think you and I were both expecting more than 3 games for Alvin Kamara. He only got 3 games. Does that mean we moved Kendre Miller down in our rankings? Tonight, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Well, Miller only has 3 weeks to prove himself. That's not a lot of time. 6 weeks, that'd have been a little bit different. He could have established himself a little bit better, at the RB spot. Where if Kamara would have came back, maybe he would have got some more touches. But 3 weeks isn't enough. It's Kamara's job. And Jamal Williams is there too. And Williams is there too. He's not one injury away from an RB1 or an RB2. Okay. Right. However, Team 10 looks great. I mean, he's crushing it. He and again, I said that I was, early again. I keep beating a dead horse here, but 8, 9, 10, and 11, man, they're picking late. Yep, picking late. They're just scooping up, but that's a good team. So I'm looking at that, and I always, when I draft, how do I keep up with that team? Right. Might be falling behind a little bit here, but I got some picks in the queue here that might catch me up. Well, for what it's worth, I'll try to play devil's advocate a little bit here, and I know Andrew Brown's making it difficult with his last couple of picks, but you look at his running, like I like the tight ends. Tight ends are great. I obviously like the quarterback and Fields for fantasy purposes. We're both Packers fans, so I can't like him for any other purposes. But Fields there for fantasy purposes makes a lot of sense there. 3 receivers right away are studs, and Jahan Dotson I know is an up-and-comer. Jamison Williams, you got to wait on him, but the talent's there, obviously. But the running backs I think are the question on this team. Like you need to make sure that Breece Hall is still the bell cow there, even if they add Dalvin Cook, right? You need to make sure that his knee is also healthy and he's going to be able to perform the way he was performing last year. Cam Akers is fine in the sense that he is going to get all the touches in Los Angeles because there's not a whole lot of other competition there. But at the same time, that is not a great offense, especially if Cooper Kupp goes into the season nicked up, which we don't think is going to happen, but there's a non-zero chance of it. And then behind them, and you only have to start 2 running backs, I understand it, but behind that, you're looking at the number 3 running back in New Orleans and potentially the number 2 or 3 running back in Chicago. So the depth at running back is a little concerning. However, everything I said before that, I think trumps the running backs because I really like the rest of Andrew's team here, Jay, as I think you do as well. I do. I think his wide receivers that definitely carry him. Justin Fields, that's like having a quarterback and a running back in the same pick. Love his tight ends. Maybe, a little, like you pointed out, a little weak at running back. But, I mean, we're only and he added Roschon Johnson. I know we didn't get to the 12th round yet, but that was a nice pick. But Roschon, the other thing I think that's concerning with Roschon Johnson, I believe he's hurt right now, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he's
He's nicked up. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking up the update here on Roschon Johnson. It's an undisclosed injury, apparently right now. This according to, God, who reported this? Adam Johns? Yeah, Adam Johns reported that he missed Tuesday's practice with an undisclosed injury. I don't know if he practiced Wednesday or Thursday. But Johnson is a player that, is backing up Bijan Robinson in Texas. I really like what he was able to do in his limited time there. And I think, given that the Bears only have Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman, not exactly household names there, the opportunity is there for Roschon Johnson. Okay, man, you're on the clock here again. You have gotten now 4 players in your backfield. You have 4 players on the perimeter at receiver. You can run the 12 personnel with Dallas Goedert and Sam Laporta here, and you have Jalen Hurts. I don't think there's a glaring weakness or a glaring thing that you need to attack here. You can go best player available. Right. Who is that best player available?
I'm going to take my favorite player. You know me, Balky. Who is it?
Oh, God. Jay, don't put me on this spot. I have no idea which one you're going to take here. Is Adam Thielen? Could be the number 1 receiver in Carolina this year. So yes. There's a lot of people that are kind of down on Thielen as far as what he is going to be able to do with a rookie quarterback, a team that's sort of rebuilding back up to contention that just traded their number 1 receiver here. But I think the opportunity is there for Thielen. They don't have a lot of competition for targets there. Perhaps the most talented guy that's there besides Thielen is Jonathan Mingo, who's a rookie. So I think there is a lot to like, at least in a full PPR sense, for Adam Thielen. The best part about this pick to me, Jay, is wide receiver 59. It's 12-11. It's what you had to give up to get Adam Thielen in regards to draft capital, to get a number 1 receiver in the 12th round here on a team that could be throwing a lot in some potential shootouts in the NFC West. That pick makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some great hands. I think you had me on a podcast early in the summer, and the Vikings were going to let him go. And I think you asked me, where would you like to see him go? And I said, I hope he goes to the Packers so he can stick it to the Vikings. But don't leave me Thielen in the 12th.
Yeah.
I think I'll go there all the time. Well, I'm up again.
Yeah, Tyler Boyd goes to Scott McKetchin here at the end of the 12th round. Final pick.
And
of the 12th round.
That's who I wanted, Balky.
Oh, okay. So you're targeting a Thielen Boyd here turn. It's not going to happen.
Joe Burrow. I mean, I know he's the wide receiver, the 3rd wide receiver there, but he's had spike games too. So that was a good pick.
And the other thing too is, and I always bear this in mind as Jay contemplates his pick here. But the other thing with Boyd is, if Higgins were to go down, if Jamar Chase were to go down, knock on wood, which is what I'm doing right now, we don't want to see that. But if they were to, all of a sudden, Tyler Boyd looks like a slam dunk top 20 start, no matter who the Bengals are playing, which works in his favor to draft him in the 12th round. Geno Smith went at the 13:01 tonight to Scott McKetchin to kick off the 13th round. So, Jay, you're back on the clock again here.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to running back here, and the 1 injury away running back.
The 1 injury away type running back is indeed out of Cleveland here for Jay's pick. It's Jerome Ford, running back 51 at the 13:02. I shouldn't say unlike Jaylen Warren, because, when Nick Chubb has been running hot, he's always had his Robin, right? Sometimes it was Kareem Hunt. Sometimes it was Dearness Johnson. And obviously with both those guys off the roster this year, it could be Jerome Ford. I do like the Cleveland offense. Here's the thing. I'm not going to be a stand for the Browns offense here. The Browns offense, it's going to be great this year. But I am going to stump for a lot of proven players coming off bad years, led by Deshaun Watson. So I think regression to the mean is important to keep in mind with the Browns offense here. Mm-hmm. And if there's even a little bit of regression in the mean, you're looking at some pretty good values for the Browns this year. That includes Watson, it includes Cooper, Elijah Moore, Nick Chubb, and Jerome Ford, who you just picked here. I like that pick for the upside in the 13th round here. Why was it Ford for you if it wasn't for one of the reasons I just stated, Jay?
I think you nailed it. I think you gave me all of the reasons. I mean, the big thing, I paired him with Jaylen Warren, so they're both in offenses that run the ball a lot. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those lead backs will have to be spelled. So I see, they're both capable of catching passes. So, this late in the draft, to pair him with the other 3 running backs I've already picked, I think that's a good fit. I just don't want like wide running back threes or running backs that are buried on an offense. I want them to at least have some
Yeah.
upside and an opportunity to maybe to get into a starting role. So those last two RBs, that's the reason I picked both of them.
Jay, I gave my thoughts on Dalton Kincaid last night, so I want to pick your brain here as the fantasy forecast chiming in on the YouTube chat right now about the Dalton Kincaid pick at 9-10 to Andrew Brown. Just sort of in general, what are your thoughts on Dalton Kincaid as a rookie tight end in Buffalo this year?
Okay, first you're asking me about a rookie.
So I kind of know where you're leaning. Yes.
I only have one, that I went out on a limb for. I think Dawson. I like Dawson Knox. I think he's the guy. I think he's got a rapport with Josh Allen. I think they're talking about two tight end offenses. Kincaid's a stud. There's no doubt. The profile is great. I think he's going to get his fair number of passes, but a lot of mouths to feed there in Buffalo. It's just not for me that early. I think, and he may even move up, okay, as we get closer to Vegas. But I'd rather Sam Laporta over.
And I think, I wouldn't say you're in the majority on that, but I know there's a lot of other people that also feel the same way with Laporta. Kincaid is another guy. I'm surprised he's going as low as he is in tight end premium formats where people get so excited about rookies. The mystery box, the door number 2 of what a rookie could provide, and the fact that you get 1.5 points per catch for him, I think makes him more attractive as well. So I think he actually moves up, rightly or wrongly. I think he moves up as we get closer to Vegas. He goes at the 9-10 tonight to Andrew Brown. Let's welcome in our next guest tonight. He is actually drafting in the 8th spot, sandwiched between Frank Imbornoni and Bobby Sangerman tonight. He's at the 8, went back-to-back tight ends in the 4th and 5th. We've had him on the show before, I believe. I think a couple of times we've had him on the show over the last half decade or so. I want to welcome him back. The 26er himself. It is Jake Belich. Jake, welcome into the program. And I think the big question is, I know I ask you this every time, am I pronouncing your last name right?
It's getting closer. It's Belich.
Belich. It is not getting closer. It's getting further away. It's getting further away. Belich. Jake Belich. Well, I like your squad here tonight, Jake. When you knew you had the 8th pick, what were you thinking in the first round? How high up was Diggs as a priority? Was that the target?
Yeah, Diggs was really my guy. If he didn't fall, I was gonna reach up for AJ Brown, but I just like Diggs' situation this year. I know he was kind of a little bit of a wild card on the offseason, but he seems like he's dialed back in and he's kind of got a pretty solid situation ahead. So I was really happy to get him there.
What about Saquon Barkley? Jay and I were talking about this, and when you took him, the thing is, like, we know Barkley's probably not happy with his contract situation there, but it is what it is. He knows what he has to do. Are you nervous about him fighting through any soft tissue injury that he normally would have fought through harder if he had the long-term contract? Are you nervous about that from a fantasy standpoint as well, as you took him in the 2nd round tonight?
I'm not, only because he's such a class act. Mm-hmm. In a normal situation, I would be, but with Saquon, I think he's just such a classy guy. I think if he has a little injury, he's gonna he really wants to do good for the team. He just seems like one of those guys, and I was pretty happy he fell there because once I got Barkley, I knew I was gonna try to go for the Waller Daniel Jones stack. So that kind of all fell into place.
So in the 4th and 5th round tonight, Jake, you end up getting a couple of players that I have heard the argument for that are both $1 million winners this year in the Fantasy Pros Championship. One in Darren Waller in the 4th round at the 405, one in Kyle Pitts at the 508. A lot of times these guys end up on different teams. You nabbed both of them tonight. Can you tell us the thought process of after you drafted Waller, why it was still important for you to get Pitts here in the 5th round?
Well, Pitts, I like Pitts, and I was really after Herbert, and he got picked, one spot before me. So Pitts was a nice consolation prize. So, it is nice to stack those tight ends in the FFPC early. Then you really don't have to worry about it the rest of the draft. And, I'm a little worried about Pitts this year because, I did have a lot of them last year, and he didn't exactly pan out. But I do want to get some exposure to him, and I thought it was kind of a unique situation with, it was a nice situation with Waller to stack there.
When you look at your running backs, I don't want to say you ignored the position, but you only drafted one, obviously, in the first 7 rounds. That was Saquon Barkley. You take Brian Robinson in the 8th round. Can you tell us a little bit about how you normally handled running backs in the Fantasy Pros Championship drafts? Is this more on brand for you, where you grab the quote-unquote hero running back early and fill in the cracks late? Or was this sort of an outlier for you?
Not like this. You know what the problem is, Eric? I've been drafting like a lot of best balls. So in best ball, I like the hero RB, and then I like to like just take a bunch of running backs late. But in this format, you have to start somebody week 1. So I was kind of after, I really wanted Addison, and the smart move would have been to take Pacheco or Gibson there. But I'm not unhappy with Robinson because he's been getting good camp reviews, and the word is that I'm a Washington fan, so the word is out of Washington that like he looks really good this year, and he was still having a lot of lingering effects from the gunshot wound last year. I know it's been talked about a million times, but it really did seem to affect him from what the local beat reporters are saying. So I wasn't a big fan of Robinson last year, but I have been taking him a lot this year because I do like where he goes, and he is the starter. So for some reason they don't seem to like Gibson there. Maybe Bieniemy can change Rivera's mind, but it seems like they really love Robinson for whatever reason. And he's not the fastest guy. He's kind of a plotter, but, he must do something right.
So what was the other thing? Oh, Treylon Burks. So he has dropped in ADP ever since the Tennessee Titans signed DeAndre Hopkins. But he really dropped tonight. You almost got a full round of value grabbing Treylon Burks at the 9-8 tonight when he normally is a late 8th round pick. So I'm kind of curious your thoughts. Was this just a value pick here to grab Burks, or do you actually think FFPC drafters are letting him fall too far after the Hopkins signing?
I do think they'll let him fall too far, but it was kind of a hold my nose pick. I'm not like really a Burks guy. I was hoping for I was really hoping for Elijah Moore, but it was kind of unrealistic that he would keep dropping. But yeah, I mean that wasn't my favorite pick. But I gotta say, when is it Jay took Cook in the 7th, that broke my heart because that was that was my guy. I was really after Cook, but I knew with the camp reports that it would be a struggle for him to come back. So I almost took him in the 6th over Godwin.
And Jake, that brings up something that Jay and I were talking about. Why do you think Cook has not ascended yet? Is it just too early? We're gonna see a rise in ADP for him within the next few days. I thought we would see it by now, and it still hasn't taken.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he kind of like checks a lot of boxes, in PPR. He's catching everything during training camp, which I know isn't everything, but he's seeing a lot of volume. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I wanted to tease your pick here. So you are up right now at the 1508. You end up getting a free agent running back here in Kareem Hunt as the 62nd running back off the board. Can you tell us a little bit about what you liked about Hunt here in the 15th round?
Yeah, I'm just trying to take a bunch of stabs at guys, to be honest, and hoping something hits. I mean, maybe somebody gets injured in training camp and Hunt, walks into a starting role. I mean, that may be a little unrealistic at his stage in his career, but in the 15th round, it was either him or Bucker, and Bucker got taken one spot before. So,
right.
But
I'm looking at the board, Jake, and we're talking with Jake Belich, who's drafting from the 8th spot tonight. Johnny Seasons, the 26er, drafting in the 8th slot in this Fantasy Pros Championship for $1 million. I want to make sure. Okay, so ended up drafting the third Ravens receiver off the board tonight. Zay Flowers at the 904, Odell Beckham at the 1105. You get Rashad Bateman at the 1108. This is how FFPC players have been handling the situation. They're letting Bateman drop to being the third Ravens receiver off the board. Do you like Bateman this year? Was this a value pick? What can you tell us as we look into the Belich crystal ball here for the Baltimore Ravens? What do you think about Rashad Bateman this season?
Yeah, I don't know about the crystal ball, but yeah, I do like Bateman. I've been drafting him all year, so it may be a little bit of fool's gold, like or what do they call it, a sunken cost fallacy. He's falling, and I just keep grabbing him. But I do like him out of the three. I think they really do want him to be the number one. I know Flowers has been showing, but these rookies, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess, Flowers could hit. He really could. But
right.
Bateman's, I think they've been kind of grooming Bateman for a long time. So I've kind of been on him all year. So at some point, I probably have to pivot and get some Flowers too, just to hedge. But
Jake, you are on deck right now in this draft. 6 running backs to your name on this squad. You also have 6 receivers, couple of tight ends. You got Daniel Jones to go with Darren Waller here, as well as Saquon Barkley, quite frankly, with all the passes that Barkley is going to catch this year. Hunter Henry is the pick before you here at the 1604. What are we thinking at the 1605, Mr. Belich?
There's not much here, huh?
Is this another running back stab? Are we going to see another running back stab here?
I'm actually thinking about CEH, which, is so gross, but
Aiden LaCorey, another FFPC live draft host, is notorious for hating Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So he would approve of this pick in the fact that you're making it, but you're also hating it at the same time.
I guess this guy has got as good a shot as any. If I heard, I'm not sure how true it is, but recently I heard somebody talking about, the Kansas City backfield, how the person you think is going to start never starts. So,
right.
maybe Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes back, went back and, started refocusing. I don't know what the issue is there,
but the thing is, Jake, it's a 16th round pick, right? So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right?
Exactly. And McKinnon's, a year older, and he's injury prone, if that's a thing. But so I guess he's as good as shot as anybody. I mean, he's on a great team. If he hits, he's going to hit.
Right.
Big, so.
Jake, final question for you tonight before we let you go. We are 80% through the draft. The majority of the difference makers have been selected in tonight's draft. If you were a teacher, if you were Jake Belich's teacher, what would Professor Belich give as a grade on the team from the 8 spot tonight on Johnny Season's term paper? What grade would you give yourself?
It's like a C-. It's not great. But,
Where did it go wrong? Was it the James Cook pick that when Jay took him, is that when it all went wrong? Where did it go wrong? You obviously like the start. You like the start.
If I had to grade Jay's team, I'll tell you, he's like a B+. He put together a nice squad. But
thank you.
I would say, I'm just very worried about my 3-4 picks, Keenan Allen and Waller staying healthy. Mm-hmm. And I did reach on Addison, so I don't, I really need one of these other receivers to step up. But it's not the best. And, it's really a bet on the Giants offense, which, I'm putting a lot of faith in Daniel Jones, which is never a good thing. So.
Only 18 quarterbacks have been drafted. There's a way that you can still add a couple of quarterbacks that are still out there that might make all the difference in the world. I'm always intrigued by outliers, Jake. I like the outlier of the Waller-Pitts combo here.
Thanks. I was thinking, instead of who was it? 11. Instead of Bateman, I was thinking about going Richardson and then trying to go Richardson Jones, so I had that upside at quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't want to. I don't know.
Would you? Let me ask you this, Jake. If if Richardson wouldn't have gone to Sangerman at the 1204, would you have taken him over Daniel Jones and your stack at 1205?
No, that was the thing. I would have taken Jones first because I felt like I needed, my team was kind of built as a Giants team, so I would have taken Jones over Richardson. I know, because I didn't think with the auto drafter Jones would come back because they were pretty high up on the queue. So yeah, once I saw if Bateman didn't fall, I would have went either Richardson Jones or Jones Richardson.
Got it.
11, but it is what it is. I mean, maybe I'll grab another one late. I mean, Purdy's still out there.
Yep.
There's some decent options. So.
And we were talking about him on last night's stream. Turp and I, Jake, we can't believe that he's going that low, and he's still out there. You went and I think he went in the 18th round last night. Might have the opportunity to draft him in the 17th or 18th tonight. I'm going to let you go so you can prepare for this 17th round pick. We'll see what happens there. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck winning that $1 million this year, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Jake Belich, the 26er, one of the original 26ers from the 250 number 26 FFPC Dynasty League, drafting from the 8th spot tonight. Johnny Seasons here is the moniker that he is rolling with for his team name. He's actually on the clock. Speaking of on the clock, Jay Reid was just on the clock here. I know you took KJ Osborne and Jared Goff in the 14-15 turn here. Goff, the backup, hurts. Obviously, Osborne, the former teammate of your 12th round pick in Adam Thielen. But let's talk about these receivers here in the 16th and 17th round. You get a high stakes late round darling and Donovan Peoples-Jones. My God, I can't believe nobody in YouTube commented on this pick, because every time we have a live stream, Jay, every time we see DPJ go, everybody in the live, there's always like, Donovan Peoples-Jones, oh, DPJ, this is great. What a great pick. We didn't see it tonight, but I know a lot of people out there like that pick. Let's talk about him before we get to your 17th round pick. I like the Browns offense bouncing back, and you got a chunk of it here in DPJ.
Yeah, he had a decent year with Watson. Watson targets him a lot. We're looking at 16th round. I think it's good value. There's a buzz in training camp, with him. So it's a good receiver. And the earlier rounds, I was hoping that Chase Brown or Zay Jones would fall to me. I was going to pick one of those two, but I went with KJ Osborne. He has some spike games. I know Jordan Addison's there, and he's the darling, and there's a lot of talk. But KJ was coming on last year, and he's got a good rapport with Cousins. So I felt that was the way to go. And the Goff pick, I looked at the board. There are 7 teams didn't have any quarterbacks. I said, well, we're going to have a quarterback run here.
Right. Yeah.
And only one went. Only one went. But there was some madness behind the pick. I've stacked them with Sam Laporta.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's this. I don't want to call it the Scott Connor, Jay Reid school of stacking late, but it's something that you've done quite a bit over the years, and it worked out here.
Yes, we do that, and with a rookie at that, so he should be proud. But
exactly. So Las Vegas Raiders, they don't have Darren Waller anymore. Which makes Hunter Renfrow maybe a little bit more appealing, but you also got to consider the fact that Michael Mayer is now a tight end, and they added Jacoby Myers from New England as well, who has been a big-time PPR guy in New England over the course of the last couple of years. They also have a PPR hog in Devontae Adams. Hunter Renfrow, when you look at him in the 17th round, what are you hoping for? What are you expecting here from this pick?
I hope he was hurt, but I hope he gets back to his form. I think for Garoppolo, it might be a safety valve for him. He'll get his share. There's a lot of mouths to feed, but we're talking about the 17th round here, and he's my wide receiver 7 or 8.
He's super late
at this point, but it's still, I think, good value on a good offense. And you only need an injury or two. He could become relevant. He's a seasoned pro. There's no chances on a rookie, or if this might happen and this might happen. So he's going to be in the lineup. He does very well in the slot. So I think that was a good addition with Donovan Peoples-Jones there, back to back.
Let me ask you something about Jake Belich's pick here in the 18th, or beg pardon, in the 17th round. Pierre Strong at the 17:08. We talked about Ramondre Stevenson quite a bit last night, and for Stevenson owners, like tonight, he goes at the 307 to Frank Imbornoni. For Stevenson owners, it's like, okay, they've cut Robinson, they've had other veteran running backs in to Foxborough, but they haven't signed any of them. And now they're sitting Stevenson on random days of practice because I think they know what kind of a workload he's in for. To me, that suggests they're not looking at adding any more running backs, because if they were going to, they probably would have by now. And you have Pierre Strong here sitting in the 17th round to Jake Belich. And I like that pick because I feel like if Stevenson were to go down, I don't know if Strong is the bell cow there, but he's certainly going to be in contention for the lead back role. And you're getting the injury away type guy here at the 1708. A great fit for the way Belich's team is building.
True, but general rule: don't ever try to outguess Belichick in fantasy football.
Right. That's a good rule of thumb. Because people have tried that and lost a lot over the years.
Lost big time, Yeah. You never know who's going to start, because something could happen in practice to, excuse the expression, piss Belichick off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Next thing you know, he's in the doghouse and nobody knows about it, of course. And he sits a bench. But no, it's a good addition this late to the team.
Okay, so let's Jay, where do you stand on another guy that's getting a lot of hype right now in Kansas City? Richie James, wide receiver 77. He goes to Bobby Sangerman's squad. Sangerman, who, by the way, did not take a receiver until round 5. He could use all the help he could get. I think he did a great job in the middle of the draft. But, man, if you have a team that's formulated around those 4 running backs, not a bad idea to take a stab on receivers late here. What do you make of the Richie James stab in the 17th round?
A good pick this late. Look at the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. He's going to sling it around. An injury or two, I mean, he could be relevant. And Mahomes, other than Kelsey, if he locks onto you and he's one of your favorite wide receivers, other than Kelsey, who's at tight end, of course. But it's a good late pick. I like Richie James. I contemplated it, but I just went with the 2 I did. Because they're veterans.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a rookie. They're established. They're on teams. They're going to start. But like the pick this late. Absolutely.
What about and you're about to be on the clock here. Greg Dortch going off the board at the final pick of the 18th round. We only have 2 more rounds to go here tonight.
I missed the pick talking to you.
Oh, you did? You did. Oh, do we need to pause that? Do we need to roll it back?
No, not at all, because
sure?
that's who I had in my queue.
Jelani Woods. Okay, so let's talk about him in a second. He's the 31st tight end off the board. He's your 3rd tight end drafted tonight between Goddard and Laporta. I think these last couple picks are kind of academic. One's got to be a defense. One's got to be a kicker. Is the defense going to be first here?
Yes, defense is first.
We got the Saints, the Bills, the Eagles, Patriots, Cowboys, Ravens, Commanders, Jets, and Niners all off the board right now. Looks like there is a total of 9 defenses off the board. So you're still getting a top 10 defense here, Jay.
Yeah, actually, I got to go with the KC defense. I follow Draft Sharks. Shout out to them. KC is their 2nd-ranked defense on their site, so can't beat that.
The Chiefs defense here at the 1902. Not that I want to have another late round discussion on Brock Purdy, but I feel like Turp and I talked about him quite a bit last night. Now, let's get your thoughts on it. This is a guy that is now throwing, I think they said this reported 110 passes in practice every day. He's reporting some mild soreness at the end of practice after throwing all those passes. However, he also said it feels the same as before the elbow surgery. It feels the same as far as the soreness goes with his normal elbow. So I guess this is a good thing. And yet, with all those weapons there, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, all those guys there, Brock Purdy is still going late. Tonight he goes as the 21st quarterback off the board. I'm of the opinion, I won't bring up my G.I. Joe retaliation reference because every time I bring that up, everybody always hates it, so I'm not going to bring it up. But this is a guy that just keeps crawling up little by little in ADP, Jay. How high can Brock Purdy go in drafts, assuming everything goes according to plan in training camp in the preseason for the Niners signal caller?
Well, one, I'm shocked. I had him queued up to take him. That'd have been a nice, match with Jalen Hurts. But I didn't think he'd come back to me. They had 7 teams that needed quarterbacks, and that's why I jumped on Goff. because I had Sam Laporta. But if I wouldn't have made that pick with Goff, probably a round or two later, I would have went with Brock Purdy. So I don't understand it. Maybe everybody's scared off with the injury. You know, from what they're saying, he's sore, soreness. But I don't know if he's going to play in any preseason games. If he does, he could move up if everyone sees he's back to form. My guess is probably they'll keep him out. So Balky, he has no place to go but up.
Yeah.
Okay. He has no place to go but
yes,
up. I mean,
true. He's not going to fall any further.
He could go up 5 or 6 rounds. Depending on just any news. So I'm really shocked he felt it. If I'd have known that, I would have waited and took him.
Yes, yeah, that's a good point. Jay, I look at the Chase Edmonds pick at the 1901 tonight to Scott McEachin, and I'm kind of curious here as to your philosophy on drafting backup running backs in a contest like this. Myself, I was always like, man, if I draft a running back early, I got to get his backup. I just simply have to. I cannot leave the draft without it. And I feel like that's really hamstrung me over the years to now the point, and I don't play in the FantasyPros or the FFPC because I can't. But in Kentucky, when I play there, now I'm totally of the opinion like, man, I'm not even looking at my handcuffs. I want to look at other people's backup running backs. I want to look at other people's injury away type guys, because that is going to, I can increase the variance of my squad that way and really build a juggernaut if those injuries happen towards the end of the season, and I can roll out 3 top 10 running backs in the championship round. Man, that's how dreams come true. That's how winners are made. That's my philosophy on it. It's evolved over the years. How do you handle that?
That's a general rule in high stakes to do exactly what you said, and I agree with you.
It only took me like 15 years to figure it out.
However, if you have a weak running back squad, okay, let's say you went 0 RB, and you're very weak, then it might be beneficial to take a backup, or 2 to help your squad out in case that back goes down. Okay. You have someone to plug in to start. But if you have a decent running back squad, exactly what you said, take everybody else's handcuff or running back, and that's been the general rule in high stakes. So it helps your squad, and it hurts another competitor. You just hope it doesn't happen to you.
Right. And quite frankly, if it does, maybe you're not making, the thing is, like, if it happens to you, let's use the McCaffrey example. If it happens to you and you don't have Elijah Mitchell, and you had McCaffrey and he goes down, well, is McCaffrey, I beg your pardon, is Mitchell really going to get done what you needed McCaffrey to get done? Probably not. It's not so much about the subtraction off the roster. It's about the addition. So we can get greedy again, like you just said, not in every single situation, but I think in a lot of situations, get greedy with those backup running backs, because I think more often than not, the positives outweigh the negatives of not having your own backup running backs.
I agree.
In a national tournament like this, obviously.
Yeah,
closed 12-team league, it's different.
I totally agree with you.
We are coming up here on the final round. Some interesting picks, some guys going off the board we just don't have the time to talk about tonight. But Cade Otton going off the board to Sean Stevenson's squad in the 19th round. A fellow 19th round pick, Terrace Marshall, going to Andy Peacock's team. You're looking at Justin Ross going to Frank Imbornoni. Deneric Prince off the board to Bobby Sangerman here at the 1909. Last night's darling, Israel Abanikanda, in that Hall of Fame game. He also goes to Sangerman here. Another backup running back in Keontae Ingram. Rookie and Michael Wilson to Imbornoni. Jake Belich taking Keontae Ingram. Evan Hall, who's an interesting guy in Indianapolis right now, even with the addition of Kenyon Drake. Zach Evans off the board to Eric Hebden here as his final pick. The 74th running back chosen tonight. Team Fly. Sean Stevenson is on the clock, about 45 seconds, Jay, and you will have your final pick of the draft. I don't know if any kicker is standing out to you. There's 11 kickers that have been chosen, and I'm gonna dedicate this next comment to Kevin Williamson. 11 kickers chosen. You pick a kicker here, you're still getting a top 12 kicker. That's analysis, that's stats, that's facts. That's the kind of hard-hitting stuff you get on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour live draft coverage of the Fantasy Pros Championship. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, this is the time as a Packers fan, I'd always just go with old reliable Mason Crosby, but we are lucky enough to have Anders Carlson booting kicks left and right in camp right now, and Mason Crosby's not there. I don't know if you have a thought here. Looks like you're going to go with a guy from last night and Greg the Leg.
Yeah, he was booming them from 50 yards. Look, Balky, my kicker is going to change about 10 or 11 times.
Me too. Yep, exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
during the year. So you want someone that's, pretty dependable. And Greg the Leg, he looked in season form, on Thursday night. So why not take a shot at him?
Melvin Gordon, the final pick of the Fantasy Pros Championship Draft tonight, as all 12 of these teams are gunning for a $1 million grand prize. Jay, let's wrap it up here and take a final look at how your team turned out. For the viewers, Jay was picking from the 2 spot tonight. His quarterbacks ended up being Jalen Hurts and Jared Goff. Running backs are Rachaad White, James Cook, Rashad Penny, Jalen Warren, Jerome Ford. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Smith, DeAndre Hopkins, Kadarius Toney, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Hunter Renfrow. The tight ends are Dallas Goedert, Sam Laporta, Jelani Woods. Kicker is going to be Greg Zuerlein. Defense is the Kansas City Chiefs. So this team listen, I was fawning all over your first 10, 11 picks here tonight, even 12 for that matter. But when I look at the team as a whole, I think the question mark, maybe for me, and I don't know for you, is the running backs. Did you do enough there with the 5 running backs you chose? We already said during the program that sometimes the easiest position to replace on your roster is your number 2 running back every week. If I'm going to be weak somewhere, it's going to be at number 2 running back. I think that's where you're weak tonight, and I'd be okay with that with all the other players that you assembled at the other positions.
Yeah, I have to do some waiver work maybe at running back. Going to use some of my waiver money to strengthen that position. But I think overall maybe a B minus.
And this is your first one of the year too.
I think Jake gave me was it Jake? He gave me a B plus.
He gave you a B plus. Yeah, that's right.
And that was like 6 rounds ago. So, so a little harder on myself. Maybe I could have done a little bit more at running back in the later rounds. I was really, really waiting for Chase Brown there. Not that he's a starter going to make a difference, but I think that would have just rounded out my 6 RBs. But I was sniped, so I just turned to the wide receiver spot at that point.
Yeah, sniping happens for sure.
Yeah.
What would Scott Connor say about your team, Jay? Why don't you have more rookies? Is that what you would say?
Exactly. You took the word. Not enough rookies. Not enough rookies, especially after round 10. But I did.
Right.
I did add one in there.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Scott and I will be in Kentucky at the end of the month. We're going to see you there. I might not recognize you because if your beard gets any longer, you're going to be rivaling Rip Van.
I can say this with almost I could say this with almost 99% certainty. By the time my flight touches down in Louisville, I think I will be clean shaven at that point. So everybody should
recognize you. Everybody waits for that every year. What does Balky look like? Has he aged? Once he removes the hair, has he aged? Does he look good? I mean, having beard.
I won't look good. I hear the thing. I won't look good, and I will have aged. And those are the 2 givens. I will tell you that right now. Jay, such a pleasure to do these shows with you. Thank you so much for not only hanging out with me tonight, but hanging out with me while you're drafting for $1 million. How many people can say that? I certainly appreciate it. We will continue to follow you on Twitter at Packers153. I'm sure I will see you in some more drafts going forward here. And I obviously will see you in Louisville for the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship live events at the end of the month. Be good until then. Thank you again so much, and good luck this season.
Thank you so much, Balky. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. Thank you.
As did I. Jay Reid, ladies and gentlemen, popping on the show tonight. Certainly appreciate every time that guy can come on and chop it up with me. It's what a joy. What a joy it is. And I'm sure this is not going to be his last appearance on the podcast. He will be on again. I want to not only thank Jay Reid tonight, but I want to thank Andrew Brown, Jake Belich, the FFPC, Rob Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you. Now, we got a lot of stuff going on. We've never gone harder on the FFPC YouTube channel. I'm going to do my best to attempt to tell you what's coming up. So, I'll just go. How about this? I'll just go in order. Sunday night, Dave Tripoli, Aiden LaCorey are going to be doing some live commentary, bring you a live FFPC main event draft. That is going on 9/8 Central. So 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, we're going to have that. We're also going to have a double dose on Tuesday night. Myself and Dave Tripoli are going to be covering a live Fantasy Pros Championship draft at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then at 10 p.m. Eastern that night, we're going to go live. Myself I'm going to be hosting the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown live here with what was he, 14 or 15 time champ It's maybe I can look it up here real quick. In any event, he's been a champ for a long time in this format, and he's going to be on board again on Tuesday night. God, I wish I could find it here, and I just can't. I'm sorry. How many leagues he's won over the course of the last, and he hasn't been playing that long too. Son of a gun! I thought I had it. My apologies here on this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how many leagues he's been on, or how many leagues he's been on. I don't know how many teams leagues he has won over the course of the last few years in the FFPC. But I tried to get him on earlier in July. He was actually out playing poker in Las Vegas, and I couldn't have him on. But we're going to have him on coming up on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Duke Viveros will join us here on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. So a double dose of shows on Tuesday night. Then Thursday, we will go live here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Show with myself and the Fantasy Sanctuary and Fantasy Pros, Tom Strachan. We'll go live there. And then also Thursday, that is at 7 p.m. Thursday night. And then at 10 p.m. Thursday night, a bonus High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour with 26-time FFPC League winner Matt Stewart. That'll be myself and Farrell on Thursday night. And then, of course, Friday night, we go live again. And we're going to have on, I have to confirm this, but I believe it's going to be FF Masterminds. Michael Nazarick is going to join us once again. Always love picking that guy's brain too. He's an OG in the industry, been in the industry for damn near 40 years now. So he knows what's going on. One of the best in the business. That is basically your next week on FFPC YouTube. That's what's coming up. As a reminder, live or the FFPC main event live drafts started today. So if you want to jump in there and go for $1 million, you can do that. We're going to have live main events going off every single day, starting today until the start of the regular season. On that Sunday of week 1. So plenty of chances to win $1 million there. Plenty of chances to win $1 million in the Fantasy Pros Championship as well. I just saw the 11 o'clock draft filled tonight. Yes, so I have to commission that in about 15 minutes. So I have to cut this short. But the midnight draft has only 3 teams signed up. We still got about 70 minutes to fill that. I feel pretty good about that. So if you sign up now, we're probably going to be drafting at midnight tonight. I'm commissioning that as well. Once again, a $350 entry fee, and you can win $1 million in that contest as well. Dynasty Fantasy Football is going on right now as well. You can play fantasy football 365 days a year at myffpc.com. More than 10 years we've been doing dynasty leagues, more than 1,400 leagues. Nary a league has ever folded. So make sure you're signing up for that. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video. Love the YouTube chat tonight. You guys were awesome. Keep that up. Share this video with other people that you think might be interested, and we'll continue our live draft coverage. Click that notification bell so you get notified of when we go live next. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Appreciate you all. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
One other thing, I don't think I drive the point home enough on the High Stakes Fantasy Football, or on the Fantasy Pros Championship. You are not waiting around long. What we've noticed this year, we've changed the schedule a little bit. Man, we almost got this time of year. We're into August. We almost got drafts going off every single hour, starting at 11 in the morning Eastern time. So if you want to draft, you got $350 laying around to draft for $1 million. Of course, you get that $50 discount on a 3-pack as well. You won't be waiting long for a draft to fill as the midnight draft fills up right now. For those of you in the 11 o'clock draft who are watching, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the draft room, and hopefully I'll see the rest of you in the midnight draft coming up tonight. And I'll see the rest of everyone else in all the draft rooms going on this weekend. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll let you go. Appreciate you. And Aiden LaCorey and Dave Terpoli will take over this YouTube channel Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for watching, everybody.